what took place last night, Super Tuesday. Take a quick break. Be back right after this. You are listening to the Vegas Take right here on the all-new 101.5 FM, 720 AM, KDAWN. The Vegas Take, Sharp and Shapiro on a Wednesday. Glad you could join us. If you were unaware, yesterday was Super Tuesday, and The Hill, they do a fantastic job in their political commentary, their reporting, and Julia Manchester joining us right now on the line. She is from The Hill. Julia, I appreciate you joining us. How are you?
Good, thanks. How are you doing? Thank you for having me.
Appreciate it. Always love it when you come on with us. Doing great. Let's start with the breaking news before we get to Super Tuesday, Julia. As you know, Mike Bloomberg announcing this morning that he is out of the presidential race. What is your reaction to that? Did you see this coming?
Well, he's out of the presidential race, and he's immediately endorsing Joe Biden. No surprise that he's endorsing Joe Biden, clearly the other moderate in the race, and clearly the person Mike Bloomberg thinks is best positioned to beat Donald Trump. But overall, I think the reason for him dropping out is that Mike Bloomberg's candidacy really hinged on Joe Biden's weakness. And after Joe Biden was coming out of Iowa and New Hampshire in particular, he wasn't racking up the wins he probably should have been racking up as a former vice president. And I think that had a lot of moderate Democrats very concerned. The moderate vote was being split. It wasn't being coalesced. And Sanders was shoring up all of this progressive support and really riding on this very positive media narrative. So I think that's when, Mike Bloomberg, even though he'd been in the race since November, he started to get more momentum in the polls because he was seen as a viable alternative in the race. However, we saw that after Jim Clyburn, the highest-ranking African-American in Congress, endorsed Biden ahead of South Carolina. Biden won South Carolina in a really sweeping victory, every single county going to him. He went on to win a number of states very early on in the evening last night, right after their polls closed. North Carolina, Virginia, Tennessee, Alabama, Arkansas, just sweeping the South. And we know that the South is absolutely critical for Democrats, really, because we know that the black vote is very much the backbone of the Democratic Party, and there are a number of states in the South that the Democrats are looking to flip blue at some point, so that's important. Biden got a huge win in Texas last night as well, so that plays very well for him. Bernie Sanders didn't do as well as expected. However, he did get a big win in California.
So let's stick with Bloomberg here for a second. It's amazing, Julia, because a month ago, 3 weeks ago, before the Nevada caucus, Mike Bloomberg was the buzz, right? Everybody was talking about Mike Bloomberg, and a lot of Democrats are saying he's got the money. He's the guy that Donald Trump will fear. And then he just absolutely imploded on that stage in Las Vegas. I really, truly believe, Julia, that was the start of his demise, and I think Elizabeth Warren just destroyed him, and I don't think he ever recovered from that. Would you agree?
I would agree. I think it was probably one of many parts of his demise, but that was definitely the start of it. And I think his campaign genuinely was trying to be transparent and having him on that debate stage. However, Mike Bloomberg just isn't a natural debater, and he'll tell you that. His campaign was hinged on him holding these campaign events in these Super Tuesday states and really blanketing the country with ad buys. He wasn't as good with more of these personal head-to-heads with other candidates. And I think Elizabeth Warren really went at him on this issue of NDAs and women. And, his answers were probably less than, to a lot of voters, they weren't impressed with them. So I think absolutely it was the beginning.
Now, do you think that Bernie Sanders coming out and basically giving support to Fidel Castro and being so over the top to the left hurt Bloomberg as well, because Biden is a moderate who doesn't have the baggage that Bloomberg has?
I don't think Bernie Sanders coming out, answering that question on CNN about, Fidel Castro's education programs and such, I don't know if it necessarily hurt Bloomberg. I would actually assume that it probably would have helped Bloomberg in the long run if Bloomberg wanted to stay in, because that plays in Florida in particular in South Florida. Cuban communities are among Venezuelan immigrant communities in Florida. We know that Bloomberg invested quite a bit in Florida ahead of the state's primary in a few weeks. He was very much hinging on Florida in a way. So I think, and we saw that was a line, Mike Bloomberg really hit Bernie Sanders on that line, which was smart. However, I think it's something that now Biden will now hit Bernie Sanders on, especially in a state like Florida. I think Bernie Sanders, in a way, kind of destroyed his chances with those comments in Florida. The Cuban vote in Florida is the backbone of the vote in Florida, or the vote in Florida, especially among some of those older Cuban communities, or maybe amongst some of the other Latin American immigrant communities. So I think Bernie Sanders has hurt himself in the long run with those comments.
If you're just joining us, we're speaking with Julia Manchester. She is from The Hill, obviously covering Super Tuesday. Okay, so how long will it be, Julia, until Elizabeth Warren decides that she's going to drop out of the race? When is this going to happen?
Well, we're hearing that she is reassessing her campaign this morning, if she hasn't already. So, we're waiting. She said a couple of days ago that she would be staying until the conventions. However, campaigns say a lot of things, and that was before she came in third place in her home state of Massachusetts. It's hard to imagine her trying to make the case to voters in Michigan, Illinois, Florida, Ohio, Arizona, New York, and beyond if she can't make the case to voters successfully in her home state. But Massachusetts, I was really surprised with in particular because Joe Biden won that state, a very progressive state, a state that you're seeing a contentious progressive primary battle of the Senate between Senator Ed Markey, the co-author of the Green New Deal, and Congressman Joe Kennedy, the grandson of Robert F. Kennedy. So there's, a lot of progressive support in that state, but Joe Biden still coming out on top, and the two New England senators coming in second and third place.
Julia, you mentioned how Bloomberg has been in the race since November. Exactly how much money did he actually spend on this presidential race?
He spent hundreds of millions of dollars. I don't have an exact figure right now, but it was quite a bit of money, unprecedented, really, his own money, too. And I think going forward, Bloomberg will play a huge role no matter what in the general election, because you're going to see Democrats going head-to-head with Donald Trump. And we know that the Republican National Committee and Donald Trump have a huge war chest of money.
Yeah. Well, there's no question that things are going to be heating up between Joe Biden and Bernie Sanders. It's going to continue. It's going to be a fun ride. And, Julia, you do a fantastic job for The Hill. We always appreciate your time and spending some time with us, coming on with your expertise and going over Super Tuesday and Mike Bloomberg. Appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Look forward to having you on again soon, Julia. Keep up the great work. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right. Appreciate that.
Thanks a lot, Julia.
There you go. That's Julia Manchester from The Hill. Does a great job and certainly smarter than I when it comes to dealing with Super Tuesday and all these caucuses and everything that's going on. There's no question right now, no question that Joe Biden is the favorite. And here's something I don't like. I don't like it when Republicans say, it's the establishment, they're cheating, they're giving it to Joe Biden. No, they're not. These are regular, everyday people that are voting, and they're voting for Joe Biden. Make no mistake about it. That's why he won South Carolina. That's why he did so well last night. This isn't anybody cheating.
Let's be honest. There's been three major endorsements. Clyburn in South Carolina, who Julia Manchester mentioned.
Sure.
Buttigieg, Klobuchar, Bloomberg.
And now Bloomberg.
Obviously, there's a reason those endorsements are taking place. And to say that the establishment isn't involved in that at all, I think would be inaccurate.
That's not the establishment.
If Biden doesn't get endorsed by those four people or those three people, do you think that he has the type of showing that he had in South Carolina at Super Tuesday last night? Those endorsements have helped out Biden a lot,
There's
Brian.
no question that the endorsements are going to help Joe Biden, but what I'm trying to say is there's no cheating going on here, like people say. Back in 2016, there's no cheating here. The bottom line is people are going to the polls. People are voting for Joe Biden. Those people that were on the Pete Buttigieg train or Amy Klobuchar and now Mike Bloomberg, they are now going to vote for Joe Biden. The majority of them are, and they're not going to be voting for Bernie Sanders. And you're right. Yeah, that's a huge help to Joe Biden. But I guess when I use the term establishment, back in 2016, everyone thought that, Bernie Sanders was cheated out and everybody wanted Hillary. And listen, that's not happening right now. Bernie Sanders, in a sense, is doing that to himself. And that's a longer segment to talk about. But, there are some things that Bernie Sanders says, yes. I think the things he said about Fidel Castro didn't help him. Yes. I also believe that he has some extreme views. And he'll say, well, it's not extreme. It's not extreme to want health care for all. It's not extreme to have people go to college for free and $15 an hour. Well, yes, it is. Yes, it is. You're not going to see that in my lifetime. College for free for all, it's just not going to happen. Well, we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, who are these morons that are walking into Costco buying hundreds of masks, stocking up on water, and buying things that are marked up 10 times what they normally would be. These people are idiots. And I'll explain why they're idiots coming up next on the Vegas Take, because we have audio from an actual doctor who will tell you that wearing these masks does absolutely no good from saving yourself from getting the coronavirus. It is a joke. We'll talk about some of these people coming up next. You're listening to the Vegas Take on the all-new 101.5 FM, 720 AM, KDAWN. Welcome back. It is the Vegas Take, Sharp and Shapiro. So glad you could join us on a Wednesday. Talking a little coronavirus fears. You know, there's a lot of people across the country, across the world, that are having these coronavirus fears. Yes, there have been 9 deaths. Yes, 130 cases in the U.S. It does not even come close to comparing to people that die from the flu every year. People are in fear. Why? Well, I think it's a little unsettling when you hear news reports